This video is made possible by donations to the United States Lighthouse Society from people like you.
So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending another one of our live virtual Zoom events. Always good to see so many familiar faces here. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm Jeremy D'Entremont. I'm the historian for the U.S. Lighthouse Society. I host the Society's weekly podcast, Lighthearted. People have lighthouses in their hearts, Lighthearted, which you can listen to with any podcast app or just go to uslhs.org. It's on the front page, the latest episode. And I'll mention that this event is being recorded. It will be on the USLHS YouTube channel within a couple of days. And as I mentioned, your mics are muted if you nobody other than me and our presenter Tim should be speaking through most of this event. When we get to the Q&A, you can virtually raise your hand by clicking on the react button down the bottom, and I will call on you. And also, speaking of that react button, Zoom keeps changing the way they do things. It drives me nuts. But if you click on that, you see send, at least I see my host controls, which I think can be a little different from yours. I see send with effect or reactions, and you click on a little heart or all those different things. Please don't do that, okay? Because that'll send little hearts floating across the screen and stuff, and that's too distracting. So I just ask that you not use the reactions. I probably shouldn't have pointed them out. Now you'll be tempted, but please don't use those. But you can click on react to raise your hand later when we get to the Q&A. So I've wanted to do one of these events about Green's Ledge Lighthouse for a long time. I'm very happy we're doing it today. I wanted to do it since I interviewed Tim and his son Alex for the podcast. If that was like 4 years ago now, hard to believe. I finally had the chance to visit Green's Ledge Lighthouse in person just 2 months ago in May, just about exactly 2 months ago, to see the amazing work that's been done there, which we're all going to get to see today. It's absolutely one of the best restorations done by private owners or really anybody else that I've seen anywhere. So you're going to be blown away by this, I promise. I will mention that some purists among us might disagree with some of the interior restoration. Tim will explain some of that. There are certainly some modern touches, but I think because the historic fabric of the place hasn't been damaged or destroyed in any way, I feel it's all been tastefully done and lends itself towards people being comfortable there and school kids coming in and things like that, functions and so forth. So I think it's all very well done. It's a restoration that makes the lighthouse a great place that can generate funds, which a lighthouse has to do. It has to be self-supporting. So Tim and his organization have figured out how to do that. So here's how today's event is going to work. First, I'm going to give a short presentation, just a few minutes on the history of the lighthouse. Then our guest Tim Pettee is going to talk about the restoration for a little while. I'll introduce him after I do the history presentation, and then he'll take us on a tour through the lighthouse. He is actually, you can see Tim sitting there inside the lighthouse right now. So let's go to my short history presentation first. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Tim, let me know if you can't see my screen, but I think you should be able to. All right. So the picture on the left I took a few years ago before restoration. You can see Sheffield Island Lighthouse in the background, which I'll say a little bit about. The picture on the right was taken during my recent visit in May. You can see how beautiful the lighthouse looks. So here is a map showing the location. It is in western Long Island Sound off Norwalk, Connecticut. Much closer to the Connecticut coast than it is to the New York coast, as you can see here. And here's a nautical chart showing more detail of the area there. You can see Green's Ledge light down at the southwestern end of the Norwalk Islands chain here. Sheffield Island right here. The lighthouse was at the southern end of Sheffield, or still is at Sheffield Island. So you can see it was really a dangerous passage for vessels coming from the south and southwest, coming up into Norwalk Harbor. You can see the channel going up there into the harbor. So you can see how the lighthouse at Sheffield Island really wasn't, it helped guide the way into the harbor, but it didn't do enough to warn vessels to stay away from the dangerous ledges there, including Green's Ledge. So that's why the lighthouse at Green's Ledge basically replaced the one at Sheffield Island. So here again is Sheffield Island Lighthouse, established in 1826, rebuilt in 1868. Beautiful type of lighthouse. There were, I forget the exact number, at least about 6 of this type of lighthouse built in the Northeast. Very beautiful, and now operated by the Norwalk Seaport Association. You can take a boat ride out there in the summer. They do a great job with it. Again, there's a picture with Green's Ledge in the foreground and Sheffield in the background. So the government decided to finally discontinue Sheffield Island Lighthouse in 1902 and to replace it with the Green's Ledge Lighthouse at that time. And here's a picture from the construction. It's the type of lighthouse, of course, people often call a spark plug type light. It's a caisson light. So the cast iron caisson, that lower portion, was sunk down into the seabed, filled with concrete, and then the superstructure is built on top of that. There's also a cistern in the basement and space for oil storage. And I think Tim's going to say a little bit more about the construction when he speaks in a few minutes. And here's a picture showing it after many tons of riprap stone were placed around the lighthouse to protect it against ice or whatever else might come up against it. And here's an old postcard. I believe it briefly had a 5th order, fairly small 5th order Fresnel lens when it was first established, but for most of the years it had a Fresnel lens, it had a 4th order Fresnel lens. Because of the way zoom works, I can't see what I have at the top here. It's covered by the zoom controls, but white light, I forget what does that say? Tim, help me. I can't read my top line here. White light interrupted by red flashes every 15 seconds. I think that's what it says, but I can't see the whole thing. So here's a description of what was inside the lighthouse when the keepers lived there. The first floor gallery originally had ornate cast iron stanchions, topped by the circular roof, as you can see here. 52-foot tower, has 4 stories. Below the watchroom and lantern levels, the first floor once contained a kitchen or galley. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors provided bedrooms and living space for the keepers. And the entire tower was lined with brick up to the watchroom level. Now, here's the story I want to tell you. This is actually most of what I want to tell you before I turn it over to Tim. I wrote a book on Connecticut lighthouses, and I'm going to read you a section from that because this story is just incredible. It's not a happy story, but it's a very interesting story, very unusual story about a couple of lighthouse keepers at Green's Ledge. So I'll go ahead and read this. Before I do, let me just mention this picture of Leroy Lowborough. The only picture I have of him is from a newspaper article, so I apologize. It's not very good quality. John Kiarsken, K-A-R-S-K-O-N, a native of Sweden, arrived as an assistant keeper in 1909. He was soon promoted to a principal keeper. On March 2nd, 1910, Kiarsken left the lighthouse on the station's only boat, telling assistant keeper Leroy C. Lowborough that he was going to Norwalk to pick up provisions and both men's paychecks. He never returned. 11 days later, the lighthouse tender Pansy landed at Green's Ledge and found Lowborough half-starved, exhausted, and almost crazy. According to an article in the Washington Post, Lowborough told authorities that during the time he was abandoned, he lived on potatoes and dog biscuits with only boiled salt water to drink. Through the whole nightmarish ordeal, Lowborough struggled to keep the light going along with the engines for the fog signal. For 3 days, he neither ate nor slept. During one 72-hour stretch, there was continuous fog, and one of the engines failed. He struggled vainly to repair the engine, and meanwhile the light burned itself out. When the tender crew arrived to investigate the extinguished light, the assistant keeper was almost unconscious with his dog at his side. Lowborough later said that he would have shared his last biscuit with the dog. It turned out the Kiarskin had gone to a local hotel where he cashed Lowborough's paycheck for $44.69 and went on a drinking binge. He eventually gave himself up to Bridgeport police. Kiarskin was immediately discharged as keeper and was expected to serve time in prison for forgery, but his ultimate fate is unclear. Quote, I feel 10 years older and my hair has grown gray, unquote, said Lowborough after being taken ashore. He continued, I would not go through that experience again for the United States Mint. Several times I inverted the flag on the mast, intending to attract the attention of some passing boat and thereby escaping to the mainland. But the greater part of the time it was so stormy or foggy, the signal could not be seen. Each time I would take it down, determined to stick it out to the end. I was almost out of my head from the strain. It would have not been so bad, save for the awful fog, which made me keep at the engines night and day. It is well that the Pansy, that's the tender, came when she did. I don't think I would have moved from that rug. Lowborough received high praise for his heroism in the face of abandonment and possible starvation. He never recovered from the ordeal. A little less than a year later, in February 1911, he died of tuberculosis at the home of his father in Rhode Island. He was just 27 years old. Incredibly, this was just this was the close of the first act in this particular drama. William T. Locke was the next head keeper, and Leroy Lowborough's brother, George, became his assistant. One day in April 1912, George Lowborough went ashore to South Norwalk. It was reported that while there, he learned of an aunt's illness and went to visit her in Wakefield, Rhode Island. After 16 days, Keeper Locke was found alone at the lighthouse, weak and exhausted. He told the authorities that he had gotten little sleep since the assistant left and had reduced his daily rations to a minimum out of fear of starvation. Locke was luckier than Leroy Lowborough, as he apparently recovered from the episode. It isn't clear what happened to George Lowborough, but his lighthouse keeping career was no doubt over. This story begs for more details, but few can be found. So again, kind of a two-part drama there, and not a happy story at all, but a fascinating story. For the most part, keepers at these places did a great job and kept that light through all kinds of conditions. But occasionally, if they didn't get along, or if somebody had some sort of problem of one kind or another, it could be exacerbated living at these places. So the light was automated in 1972. The last Coast Guard keepers were removed. And that brings us right up to recent years when the lighthouse was auctioned by the federal government. And that's where our guest Tim is going to pick it up. So let me come out of screen sharing. Okay. And let me introduce, I'm going to omit a few people from the waiting room. And let me introduce our special guest, Tim Pettee. And I'm so happy he could do this today. Tim Pettee is the founder and president of the Greens Ledge Lighthouse Preservation Society. He's also working closely with the new owner of Stratford Shoal Lighthouse in Long Island Sound. When not working on lighthouses, Tim, a former Wall Street investment executive, serves on the boards of the Ohio-based Victory Funds and Portfolios, one of the largest mutual fund trusts in the country, and Clearing Bid Incorporated, a Burlingame, California-based fintech startup. Tim is a graduate of Boston University. Tim, I don't know if you know, I went to Emerson College in Boston, so we've both gone to college in Boston. There he earned a BA in economics. He lives in Rowayton, Connecticut with his wife Sheila, and they have 4 grown children. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Whenever you're ready, Tim, you can go ahead and share your screen. And you're muted, so sorry about that. I thought you were still unmuted from earlier. Let me find you here. You sunk down on the participants. There you are. Okay. Okay, now you should be able to unmute yourself. There we go. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. It's tough to be muted, I must say.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Well, welcome everybody to Greens Ledge Light. I'm going to do a a brief presentation on the restoration that took place here, and then I'm going to walk you through the lighthouse. And then at about 4:45, we actually have some overnight guests arriving at the light. A family of 6. They bought the overnight at a charity auction. We donate events at the lighthouse to local charities, and the family's coming out at about 4:45. And my son Alex, who's I call him the chief engineer, he'll be checking them in, and we'll do a little do-si-do. I'll step outside while he gives them a tour. So I thought I'd share with you some thoughts about the restoration. And Jeremy, I think, covered some preamble that I had regarding the location and the build of Greens Ledge. It's important to know that it's a spark plug. We're a mile offshore, not quite in the middle of Long Island Sound, but we're certainly not on shore. And as a spark plug with the caisson design, that was one of the biggest issues, as you lighthouse aficionados know. The caissons are critically important to any restoration. We did have a plan, and the first phase was to acquire it, and of course that was the bidding process from GSA. After the Pettee family acquired it, we set up a nonprofit with and called it the Greens Ledge Light Preservation Society. We developed a restoration plan after getting our 501c3 and after we started fundraising. And the first step was to repair the caisson. And on your left is the caisson, a piece of the caisson before the repair work. A gigantic hole had developed on the eastern side, had eroded away the cast iron, and it was right down to the brick lining in the caisson. And on the right-hand side is the beautiful metal work that was done. And there were probably 5 or 6 patches like this throughout the caisson. Another big part of the structural integrity, which took 2 summers, was the upper level deck. And the deck had to be completely removed. You can see on the left, and a beautiful new deck and a new railing. And all the railings that were done are new, but we did have old railings to go by, and we really right down to the 1/2 inch. We did a faithful reproduction of railings and everything we could in the process. It took a little while to get the Coast Guard to relocate the old foghorn and the old foghorn sensor. And of course, they did swap out the BRB 25 in the winter of 2019 with the new LED system. In 2020, we undertook the exterior restoration, and this is really where I think the community lit up, the Darien, Rowayton, and Norwalk community, because for a couple of years, the caisson was shrouded in metal work, and then for the painting, we put up the scaffolding. And in July 2020, when the new paint, when the scaffolding came down, and the we showed off the new paint. It's like the community onshore just lit up. Boaters would go by, honk horns, and it's been very gratifying since then. Some of you may know the color red that we chose. I know you're all muted, so I won't ask you, but that is Pittsburgh. It's actually not a paint; it's an epoxy or a polymer, and it's called Gumball Red. We selected that from many different reds. Here's a look of kind of before and after. Um, Another look before and after in the stairway. We were very fortunate that Cornell Carr, a major window supplier to the US Navy, was located just 30 miles from us here in Norwalk. And they did they manufactured, some of which were custom, the beautiful windows, which I'm told some of them are on, some of the models are on US Navy destroyers. We put in a solar system, and actually what you see there is kind of just a small piece of the solar and battery room. We put in 2 toilets, and we have a reverse osmosis system where we make our own water. I'm sitting at the table you see right there. You can see the poster in the background. So this is the galley, and as Jeremy mentioned, we looked. I toured a lot of lighthouses in Maine, and I think I did both North and South in Ireland, and came away thinking that many restorations have beautifully captured the periods at which they were lit. And we made the decision to restore the interior as if 2 keepers were going to live here today. Of course, nobody lives here. As I mentioned before, we do have overnight stays, and it's quite comfortable, as you'll see in a couple minutes. But we took the approach that, what if there were 2 lighthouse service keepers today? What would they want? So we put in a galley. This is the assistant keeper's room with a bathroom, not a full bath, but a sink and a toilet. And you can see this bunk bed design that our builder out of Houma, Louisiana, built this custom rounded furniture. This is the keeper's quarters on the 3rd floor. And I'm going to take you up there in a minute on the tour. This is my favorite, the old watch room, which you all know was where the keepers worked, and there are pictures, of the keepers working there with file cabinets and papers and binoculars and telescopes, and we turned it into a we call it the lounge. And in fact, with the family that's coming up tonight, as you'll see in a minute, we've got 2 air beds up there for the kids to sleep on. One of the most important features that's enabled us, as Jeremy said, to provide a revenue stream going forward, because that was our biggest concern. Restorations are done often, but what about the future? And so we have created a model as a nonprofit where we do have events out here, and you can see this beautiful event space and the dock and the gangway that we have, which really makes it inviting and accepting. We can take a tour of 50 people, which we do with the Seaport Association. And so a big part of the model going forward is to have this space. We call this the pad. And you can see the events that we've had here on your left is the Labor Day Lighthouse Swim, where in the old days, well, up until a couple of years ago, the swimmers would be taken out in boats. At the sound of a horn, they would jump off the boat. Some didn't hear the horn, but they would swim from roughly the lighthouse into shore. Now, on the day of the race, the swimmers come out. They assemble on the dock, and we blast a cannon, and they all go in the water at the same time. And it's a great community event, and it's something where we're proud of sharing this beautiful icon with the community. And now, then on the right, I think that's from our opening party in the spring of 2023 with some of our major donors. One of the things we're most proud of is the Tombros Research and Education Center, named after one of our most significant donors, Peter and Ann Tombros Foundation. And when Peter got down there a few years ago, he said, you know, this could be a classroom. And so it is. This is, you can see those red dots. Those are the old caissons. Some of you that are familiar with the spark plug construction will note that they were in the floor. This is the basement level, and it's now a classroom. And we had our first students there a couple of weeks ago, where we presented our water system, which is the door to the right of the flag, and the battery room is to the left of the state of Connecticut flag, for those of you that recognize the state of Connecticut flag. Those are exhibits in and of themselves. We also now have some exhibits for this room in production. The last phase is the next 100 years. And as I said, the restoration was one thing. It was $2.3 million. We have over 800 donors. But what about the next 100 years? Well, we want to fund the next 100 years. We're going to do tours. We have public tours, educational programs, Sound Waters, summer research intensive students were out here recently. We want to do community events. The lighthouse actually in that center picture is off in the distance. It looks like it's a lot more than a mile offshore. But what that center picture is the swim race, the other end of the swim race. And we want to equip the lighthouse with kind of state-of-the-art environmental. We want to take an environmental leadership role with water quality, weather, and other research initiatives in conjunction with partners. We've reached out to many: Sound Waters, Save the Sound, Yukon, and we have great aspirations for that part of the next 100 years. And again, that's a look at our party, our opening party. So you know what? I am going to walk you around the lighthouse for the next 15 minutes, and I'll start here in the galley. Why don't I go outside? It's quite windy. I'm in. That the Coast Guard used as really kind of a battery room for many years, if not even just worse than batteries. We have a toilet on this level, and important for all lighthouses these days is a stocked refrigerator. Note that there's a family coming soon, so you see a lot of Coca-Cola. I think the beer has been moved under the benches. I want to take you down to the classroom. Many of what you're seeing here today is, of course, available on our website. But here is the Tombros Research and Education Center. Incredibly restored. Are you all seeing this okay, Jeremy? Is it good?
Yes, excellent.
Again, here are the cisterns that I mentioned earlier. We make our own water, reverse osmosis. This was quite an undertaking, but we produce our own water. That's a freshwater tank at the top, gray water, and like a boat, the black water tank at the bottom. And then our power, and actually I hear our generator is on right now, providing some supplemental power to the batteries. This is our power room. Now, interestingly, this battery system is 5 years old. These batteries went in winter 2019. 2020. And they're 5 years old, and they are only going to last a few more years. And I shudder to think what that number is going to be when we have to replace the batteries, but they do not last forever. So we're now moving upstairs. We're back at the galley level. I'm going to take you outside in a couple minutes. I love the work that was done on the staircase here, and very proud of the brick work with which we, the crew that did the work, painstakingly stripped. And here is the assistant keeper's bedroom. And we have a growing collection of harbor lights, as Tom Pregman is well aware. And this is actually a collection that we purchased from the widow of a collector. We got those, most of those are Connecticut. And we never did find one of Green's Ledge produced by Harbor Lights. So we made our, we didn't make our own, but we contracted for our own, and it's actually a major fundraising item. So again, this was the assistant keeper's room. So we're now on 2. We're going up to 3. There are 7 altogether, or 6, plus the basement. So this was not custom-made furniture for the keeper's bedroom. I'm not sure where we got this, Wayfair or somewhere, but this was the keeper's room. And I don't know if, Jeremy, if Nick Korstad is on, but he would no doubt love this. That is the VRB 25.
I don't think Nick is here. Yeah, he's got a thing for VRB 25s.
That is actually owned by the Coast Guard, and we're keeping it safe for them. That was an attempt at humor. Turn that off. So again, this is the this is the master. We're going up to the watch room. Of course, easily identifiable by the portholes. And again, these portholes, just incredible work done by, it's probably a little too much sun, Cornell Carr out of Shelton, Connecticut. I showed you pictures, that's a big couch, but today we've got 2 air mattresses set up for the kids who will be here in about 15 minutes. And yes, that is a TV. I lost that argument. I argued vehemently against the idea of a TV and a lighthouse, but my kids won out. I don't think I've ever seen it on, quite frankly. But if the kids tonight wanted to watch Netflix or Nickelodeon, they can. We're now going up to the 5th level. Not all spark plugs had this level, as some of you are aware. Kind of a staging room. We've put some exhibits up here. The role of the lighthouse, weather monitoring system. We use WeatherFlow here, which is, I think, one of the better systems. Some commentary about the beacon and the foghorn. I'm just looking outside now to see if our guests are arriving, and they are not here yet. So I'm going to step outside on the deck. It's going to be very windy. Got about 15 to 20 knots today. Not sure what you can see with the sun. But we're now looking north. That's Rowayton to the east and Darien to the west.
Yeah, we're seeing pretty well, Tim. Looks good.
There's our beautiful dock, which is version 3. As I've said to Sandy Boyd, who I'm working with at Stratford Shoals, and I think I shared with others, if I were to do another lighthouse, I would do the dock first. Believe it or not, we did not do the dock first here. But that is an incredible, and again, it's version 3 of the dock. It's actually anchored to the seafloor. Beautiful flag that was put in by Mario Concavlas of Shelton, of Easton, Connecticut. We're now looking west to New York City. It's a beautiful windy day today. I mean, not quite beautiful sunny-wise, but quite sure why that beautiful sailboat is under power. Sailing on the daylight. Across the Sound, Long Island. So we're now looking south.
It's a right. There you go.
What?
You were a little low there, but then you lifted it up a little bit.
This is live TV, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take you up to the lantern room. This used to be quite the sight, right? When Jeremy, you would know better than I, the technology that went into the old lights and how they burned, and the job that the keeper had to keep the light burning. And of course, these days we have none of that, unfortunately. This is an LED, marine LED beacon, VLB44, for those keeping track at home. We are a red-white, so we got the red here, and I think it's every 10 seconds, and then white. We did put a coat of paint on this room, and that was 2020. You can see we really need to restore this is the last project in terms of the restoration. You can see the glass. We're talking to a number of glass professionals. Going to redo that. We're going to try to find the hardware for those vents. But unfortunately, we don't control the light. It's still an ATON, and the Coast Guard. They have a key, by the way. They let us know when they're coming. I wouldn't want them to come tomorrow morning, when the family of 6 is enjoying their bacon and eggs out on the deck. And indeed, I don't think they will, because I don't think Coast Guard goes to work on Sunday. Hope that didn't bother anybody. So I'm going to go back. Before I go downstairs, are there any questions about the restoration or about Green's Ledge? Because I see Alex is on his way out now with our guests. Any questions?
But Tim, are we going to be able to have a little more Q&A in a little while, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, should I just go back down where I was, Jeremy? Yeah. Why don't I do it?
Probably, yeah. But
Yeah.
let's see. I should have mentioned before that if people have comments or questions, feel free to type in the chat. I don't think anybody's typed anything in there yet, but you can use the chat to comment or ask questions, or like I was saying before, if you want to verbally ask a question, just click on the react button down the bottom where there's at least on my controls, if it looks the same on yours, it's a heart, it says react. Click on that and then click on raise hand, and I'll see that you raise your hand, and I'll be able to call on you, and you'll be able to unmute yourself.
You know what, Jeremy, before I take an answer, I want to just, I'm heading down. I want to show people the pad. the patio and the first level deck outside because, as I said, that was kind of a game changer for us. When that was put in, we thought, okay, now we might be able to. We have a thriving osprey family, family of 5, believe it or not, over there. This is, I think, one of the most beautiful flags on Long Island Sound. Chris Walker is our keeper of the flags. And here's the event space that I mentioned to you. There's the dock put in by Gary Wetmore. The dock is actually anchored. You don't see any pilings. We learned the hard way. Pilings don't do well in the middle of Long Island Sound. So that dock is actually anchored to the seafloor. There are 4 anchors at each corner. This beautiful jib crane, you can see the gangway in the raised position, which is a deterrent, of course, for intruders. It's important to note that, this is not public space. If we made it public space, we'd probably have to pay $1 million a year in insurance. As it is, our insurance costs are high enough doing the kind of limited events that we do.
Excuse me, Tim.
Yeah,
Are we hearing the chirping of an osprey? Is that sound we're hearing?
you certainly are.
Yeah.
You can see, not sure why he or she is upset.
Do they have babies in the nest right now?
Yes, there are 3 offspring. I hesitate to call them babies because they're about ready to fly.
Yeah.
And, they.
Getting a little windy there.
Yeah. And, by the way, the Osprey Cam is available on our website, which is pretty cool. We get a lot of likes out of that.
While you're pausing, I'll just mention the website is savegreensledge.org. So you'll want to check that out. There's a lot on there, including a gift shop, and you can buy those beautiful replicas and various other things on there too.
Solar array. We actually have 11 panels now. Whenever Alex has a few minutes, he puts up another panel. This is kind of our test turbine test because we'd like to do more turbines, but I think we need permits for the turbine. I'll just give you a peek at our family. Not sure if Alex told them this. I'm gonna wave. Can you all see them arriving?
Yeah.
Hear me? Can you see them?
Yes. Yeah.
So as I'm going to kind of get out of the way here and out of the way. Sustainability is an important aspect of the Lighthouse with our, they were always off the grid, right? Sustainability was kind of the watchword of the Lighthouse Society. And we think we've created an off the grid environment here. But we think about financial sustainability a lot because, many of you, I'm sure, are involved in restoration projects, and I've seen a few. And it's one thing to restore something, it's another thing to maintain it. So with this event space and with a limited number of things, so this overnight was actually, we donated it to a local charity, to the local Sound Waters group out of Stamford, which is a fantastic organization dedicated to doing exactly that, preserving Long Island Sound waters. But we do have, I think we have 12 overnights this year. We had an article in Travel and Leisure magazine in February, which was unbelievable. Some of you may have saw it, a 2-page spread that a freelance writer wrote after spending the night last July. And, how many how many organizations in the hospitality business would kill for a 2-page spread in Travel and Leisure magazine, and we were barely open. And when that hit in February, um, the internet blew up. Our website blew, well, didn't really, I shouldn't say blow up after the events of yesterday, but we got a lot of inquiries, and we booked a lot of overnights um, now as a result of that article. So Alex is going to be bringing the family on, and he'll check them in. And they're going to have a warm but breezy night at Green's Ledge. So Jeremy, I'm happy to take questions as the Aho family checks in.
Sure. I'll just say a couple of things. But again, if you have questions, type them in the chat or virtually raise your hand using the react button there, and I'll call on you. Just again, the website is savegreensledge.org. There's a lot on there, a gallery of restoration pictures and everything. And there is a gift shop. I was noticing there's a baseball cap, and I have to get one of those for my museum of baseball caps. I'm sorry I didn't get it when I was there, but I'll have to figure that out. And another thing I was going to mention is the beautiful window panes and the lantern. It's one of the fairly small number of lighthouses that has the diagonal kind of diamond-shaped panes. And I think those are really beautiful, but I think that also makes it more difficult to replace the glass that needs replacing rather than large, more square panes. So while they're sort of square, they're just turned at an angle, I guess. But I think that style is really beautiful. I was also going to mention that your neighbor, Tim, Gary Kalin, is in the audience here. One of the owner or co-owner of Stamford Harbor Lighthouse. Just down the sound from you. Yeah.
Indeed, Gary and his group purchased the long-suffering Stamford Harbor Lighthouse, and they have great plans for the Stamford Harbor Lighthouse.
Yeah.
We look forward to working closely with them on their restoration and educational work that they plan at Stamford Harbor.
Yeah, Gary's been on the podcast as well, and that's a great project. I'm sure a lot of the audience know that Stamford Harbor Light was absolutely, it still is in really bad shape, but it's on its way back now, and looking forward to that very much. So I don't see any questions. I see a comment from Adelia. Oh, here's a question, but she said, thank you for the opportunity to see the lighthouse. Tyler asks, how did the idea to restore the Greens Ledge Lighthouse come about? Yeah, what was the genesis of this whole thing?
Well, I grew up in this area in Westport, sailing and boating in Westport as a child, and then didn't get very far. I moved one town over, raised a family, resettled in Norwalk in a little hamlet of Rowayton. And just as when I was a kid, my parents would bring us out in the boat, and we would drive around the lighthouses. Peck's Ledge off of Kakini, which is near Westport. And I would always bring my kids out from Wilson Cove or from the 5 Mile River. And like so many boaters in this area, we would do a circle around Green's Ledge. And Green's Ledge was not looking so good. It was kind of had that Rust-Oleum brown, Coast Guard Rust-Oleum brown, and it was definitely fraying. And one fateful day now in August 2016, we're doing our usual lap around Green's Ledge, and my 16-year-old daughter says, "Dad, it's for sale." And I said, "No, honey, they don't sell lighthouses. No, I'm trying to be very fatherly. Dad, it's for sale. We should buy it." And I said, "Honey, they don't sell lighthouses. Must be, don't believe everything you read," kind of thing. So we get back to shore, and indeed, I got quickly up to speed on GSA and the whole process, and said to the family, "Look, we'll do this, but everybody's got to be involved." All right, because, and so everybody raised their hand, and we entered the auction. Unbeknownst to us, well, actually, I did know Penfield was being auctioned at the same time. And Penfield is not a spark plug. It's up off of Fairfield, about 8 miles from here, but it attracted a lot of attention and bidders. Little old Green's Ledge only had a couple bidders, and basically we won. And it's public, public information. Our winning bid was $150,000. And Alex, who's checking in the Aho family right now, who's a real estate fund manager, Alex said to me at the time it was the best real estate deal in Fairfield County. Waterfront property, 360-degree views for $150,000. Now, I didn't think it was the best deal at the time. But we dropped it into a 501c3. We wanted to include the community in this endeavor, Jeremy, as you and I have talked about. Not everybody does that. You know, there are different models. There are municipal models. There are private models. Ours is a 501c3. We have over 800 donors. Again, as I said earlier, it's not a public park, but it's a beautiful, privately owned and maintained, and we are going to maintain this thing, and it's part of our community, and I'm pleased to see how it's kind of weaving into the fabric of Rowayton and Darien. So that's a little bit of a story on how we got involved.
Yeah. Tim, we're hearing you fine, but the wind sound is kind of loud out there. We can hear everything you're saying, but that seems better. Yeah, that's good. Just letting somebody in who's a late arrival. I'm not seeing any other questions yet. I'll invite Gary Kalin also. If you want to say anything about what's happening at Stamford Harbor Light, we would love to hear about that. But anybody else, if you have any comments or questions for Tim, now is your chance.
There's Gary.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. You see, are you looking at the participants list, Tim? Are you able to?
Yeah, I think Tom Pregman has a question, and Bill Buchanan, I think, is trying to ask a question, or he's trying to unmute. No, he's not. He's saying.
Tom, did you have a question? Well, you're not. You're muted, Tom. And I have to click ask to unmute, and then you can unmute yourself.
There we go.
Yeah.
You got that?
Yeah.
You hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
I just I liked your comment about the Lighthouse miniatures in the Lighthouse, and so that everybody here knows what that's about is May of last year, New England Lighthouse Lovers, which I belonged to for many years, and we know Jeremy for a long time. We did a 50-member tour of the Lighthouse in May of last year, so they had plenty of room to take us through the entire facility. And it's, you know, if you've not seen something like that in person, when you've been exploring lighthouses for years, and you know, this is a new and modern and future is going to be sparkling for this facility. And I was very glad to have Tim and the Green Ledge Society purchase a group of lighthouses that we had for sale from a retired lady, and to display it offshore is something that she is extremely excited about. But I don't know that she's had opportunity to visit this today. Their family is very busy at the present time. But at any rate, so thanks again for that, and I wish you years more success out there. It's a terrific place.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. I agree with what you just said, Tom, about it being so, you know, you and I and a lot of people here today, our friends, have visited a lot of lighthouses over the years, but this is a unique experience seeing this place. The only places I can think of to compare would be some of the other private restorations like Graves Light in Boston Harbor, Dave Waller. We did one of these events with him, and also Ford Reike, Halfway Rock Light in Casco Bay in Maine. We did an event with him as well. Both of those places are beautiful historic restorations, but also have some modern touches in good ways, I think. So
yeah, one of the other things is that we did as a group tour both Green Ledge and Sheffield Island, because of the same Seaport Association that takes you out on the cruises to do these. And it's a totally different experience. They were refurbishing it to the extent that they could to an original look, and putting period furniture in it. And to have this be a totally different way of preserving for the future on the same tour.
Yeah.
By the
really
way,
a great day.
By the way, Tom and Jeremy and everybody online here, after the success of that tour, which Nell set up, which was the first joint tour of Sheffield Island and Greens Ledge, the Norwalk Seaport Association has scheduled 3 tours this summer of both lighthouses at the same time. So we did one in June. Unfortunately, one the other last weekend was rained out. The next one is scheduled for August 24th. And again, it'll be, you come out to Greens Ledge at 10 a.m., full tour. We'll give you a cup of coffee and Costco's best croissants. And then they'll take you over to Sheffield, which is right behind me, if you can kind of see in the mist. It's kind of murky out right now. But there's 2 more tours this season, and if you're in the area, come on down and just mention Jeremy's name, and you'll get the Sledge discount. Okay.
Oh, Jeremy.
Wow. Well, do they have to know how to pronounce my last name? Because that's tough for a lot of people.
Just say Jeremy.
Okay.
Just say Jeremy.
That's it.
Looking for, I don't see any more questions.
How
Come
about,
on, guys. You must have some questions.
Is Sandy Boyd on?
I don't think so. I'm not seeing him. No. But again, Gary, if you want to say anything about Stamford Harbor or any other comments or questions.
Yes. I think you have to, Gary has his hand
Oh,
raised.
he just raised his hand. Yep. There we go. So you should be able to unmute yourself now, Gary. Click the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand. Sorry. Thank you for the mention, first of all, and thank you, Tim. We have been working with Tim, and so far through the work of a lot of volunteers, we've managed to do our first phase of cleaning out of the lighthouse, which was a big job, and we're starting to get ready to bring some people out to show them the lighthouse. Also, we have rebuilt the exterior staircase, which was in very poor condition. So we weren't able actually to bring people out to access the lighthouse, but that's all been rebuilt. We're looking into putting in a dock system at some point, and I appreciate Tim's comment about starting with the dock system. I think that's really good advice, and hopefully something that we will work on. So we're also actively fundraising, having events, meeting with some of our political people in the area, and getting the support of the city. So there's many things we're working on, and we look forward to successful restoration, but this is going to take a while. We're still at the first
phase. Phase 1.
Phase one was getting access and getting it cleaned out, which we've done. So that was a good start. We have a couple of other projects this summer. We hope to do some structural things to the caisson, just to make sure that we're all structurally in good shape before the winter.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, Gary, it's a little different from Greens Ledge in the sense that Stamford Harbor was privately owned for many, many years, actually, I think going back to the 1950s, right?
That's correct. And the
Yeah.
owner that we bought it from had bought the lighthouse in the 1980s.
Well, it was his father, right? And then it was the.
This was Eric Spector, and Alex, his son, inherited it in the 1990s, early 90s. Unfortunately, it had been falling into a really state of disrepair. It's also a little unique, this Stamford Lighthouse, in that in the deed are 10 acres of land, mostly submerged land, but land that is actually deeded to the lighthouse. So we own this property, and we're looking into doing environmental work on the land, restoring oyster beds, doing educational projects, again with Sound Waters, who's working also with Tim. So we're all working together to water monitoring, weather monitoring. These are all part of our program that we're planning on for the future.
Yeah. I was just thinking with you and Tim and the group that's now restoring Peck Ledge Lighthouse, you're another neighbor, and of course Sheffield Island, Norwalk Seaport Association. Maybe there should be a Long Island Sound Lighthouse Society or something like that, where you could all share ideas, which I think you're doing anyway. So maybe you don't need to be formal. Yeah.
Jeremy, I nominate you president of Long Island Sound.
I'm not exactly
He's busy.
local. You don't need somebody local or somebody with no time. So anyway, but yeah, when I was there, when Tim even took me out to Green's Ledge, of course, remind me of his name, the guy from Peck Ledge.
Yeah, the keeper.
Yeah, and great photographer, and I'm having a senior moment on his name, but
I'm having a mercy. Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, he took me over
he took you over there, right? Did you go in?
I got it. Yes. Yeah. So it hasn't progressed as far as yours with the restoration, but they've done some good work there, and it's now the remind me of the name of the organization, the Norwalk Arts Association, something. That's not it. It's close to that, but they are involved, and they're having artists residencies at the lighthouse at Peck Ledge Lighthouse, which is at the other end of the Norwalk Islands there.
Hey, Jeremy, there's a great question in the chat, and I'll just take it.
Oh yeah.
What's it like trying to coordinate all the different groups and businesses that would come in to work on the lighthouse? A question for all lighthouse restoration groups. There are some groups that have lighthouse experience, and our systems work. We decided very early, that we wanted to be and it was based on funding. We decided, blessed with funding, that we would do solar in our own water, and that would be a kind of the hallmark or the backbone of an educational initiative to teach not just children, adults too, about off-the-grid living and the importance of solar and how well it works. And so for that, we went to Northeast Marine out of they're out of Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and they did the Graves, Jeremy, they did Graves Lighthouse, water and power. So, we looked into it, we did our research. Oh, hey, these guys have some experience. The challenges of an offshore lighthouse, it's all about logistics, right? I mean, we're a mile offshore. It's not like trucks just pull up and unload, and then, you take the pipe, you take the, the plywood and you move down to the site. No, it has to be coordinated. And fortunately, we have a great partner. I don't hesitate to call Gary Wetmore of, I think it's called G&C Marine in Norwalk, as a partner. He has a dock business and marine construction business, and Gary Wetmore was just invaluable in our efforts in terms of managing those logistics. And then on the carpentry, we did look locally, but we kind of felt, and frankly, local, not too many firms, wanted to kind of make the effort to come out every morning on a boat at 7:30. to do the work and then come back at 3:30. And of course, if there was weather, nobody's working that day and nobody's getting paid. Somebody commuting to New York above me. So we found a firm called Shielding Media out of West Hartford, Connecticut, that does institutional type work. And they have a very, I'll call him intrepid leader, David Goldschmidt of Shielding Media. And he embraced the project. And really for 3 or 4 years, we would take crews out from the Rowayton Community Dock here, 7:30 in the morning, myself, Alex, Brendan McGee. We kind of formed the shuttle service. 7:30 out to the light, drop, and then 3:30 pickup. So it is a difficult coordination. And I think the most important thing is to have a local marine entity like Gary Wetmore was to us. One of our donors said, "Hey, why don't we buy a barge?" And then we wouldn't have to pay Gary for all that barge time. Well, barges aren't cheap, and the most expensive part of buying a barge, to transport stuff, is where do you put it? And the dock keys. Hi, welcome. Overlapping interests here. One of the it would just have been tens of thousands of dollars to store, a gigantic barge, and I didn't want to take the business away from Gary Wetmore. So I hope that answers the question. Get your marine engineers lined up as I'm trying to do now as I work on Stratford Shoals with the new owner at Stratford Shoals. We're talking to Terry Marine up there, and I'm hoping we can secure their services and start on a very successful restoration for the new owner of Stratford Shoals.
Andrew just posted, Tim, you might want to look at that in the chat. We'd be happy to help any of the lighthouses with sustainability questions regarding the structure. I don't think we've helped with the lighthouse in Connecticut, but there's always a first. buildgreenct.org. Andrew, would you like to actually say something if I allow you to unmute yourself? With that, sure. Let me click Ask to Unmute. Can maybe explain a little bit more. So you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
It looks like you're in a tropical paradise there. So.
I'm in Stanford. I'm not in a tropical paradise, but if you want to call Stanford tropical paradise, go for it.
Sure.
I'm the chair of the Connecticut, it used to be called the Connecticut Green Building Council. It's now called Build Green CT, and we specialize in, well, I'm the chair of the homes group, but we have ones for schools, for commercial. We do all types. Never done a lighthouse before, but if you guys have any sustainability questions, that's right up our alley as far as the structure goes.
Andrew, that's I'll take you up on that. As I said, our batteries are 5 years old, and we thought they were state of the art and would last forever, but they don't, and they're not. And so that I'd be happy to engage with you on what the best, and that's part of the whole solar solution.
That's right up our wheelhouse. That's exactly what we do. Not a problem.
Yep. I will be in touch.
Great. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to mention that earlier, Chris Walker would encourage everyone to watch season 1 of, I guess it's called America's Lighthouses Nation. He posted a link in the chat. People might want to look at that. I'm not familiar with this program he's talking about. Hopefully they'll green light season 2 soon, but it sounds interesting. I'm going to look that up after the event here.
It's a series on Fox Nation. They did, I think, 5 one-hour shows, Chris, 30-minute shows on different lighthouses.
Really?
And Chris has some good contacts in the media business. We're hoping that they get renewed for season 2, and we're hoping that Green's Ledge is on their list.
Oh, cool. Oh, that reminds me, Tim. Remember, I pointed a film crew towards you, and I don't think they ever actually shot there, did they? Do you remember what I'm talking about? I think it was actually a fictional a fiction film, right?
Yes. Right. They were out of Los Angeles, I
Mhm.
think, like Hollywood. And I don't think we made the grade for their set. I think and we were under construction then, but I think they went with a land-based, lighthouse.
It's a lot
And
easier for a film crew. Yeah.
yeah, and those are nice too, the ones on land. I have a I have a thing about offshore.
I do too. I think they're usually I love some, I agree with you totally. The offshore ones are often the most interesting. Tyler just posted, I'm new to lighthouses and their restoration, so it's all very fascinating to me. And then Tyler asked, does all the funding come exclusively from your donors? Do you get funding from the state and any of the nearby cities? I think I know the answer to that, but Tim?
We do not get funding from the state. In fact, we pay them, the state of Connecticut, for the right to lease the underwater lands. Don't get me started on that. So no, we don't get any funding from the state of Connecticut. Our model was entirely private, and we are blessed in the area that we live. Over my shoulder here, you can see Rowayton, Connecticut, and I think Darien, Connecticut, and blessed with many homeowners there that very substantially committed to making sure Green's Ledge did not fall down, because it would have. We think if nothing was done, it would have met the same fate as Old Orchard. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Old Orchard, which was in Raritan Bay. It was built in 1902. It was the exact same specs as Green's Ledge, and it came down in Sandy not too long after GSA transferred it to a new owner. So far, all of our funding has been private. With 5 years of really good 990 information and a good track record, we're looking forward to applying the grant trade, particularly for education. There are many organizations, of course, that provide grants for restoration, but we're really excited and we have great aspirations to make this the most unique classroom in New England. Where kids with an interest in marine science, the environment, can come out here to learn. And what a great environment. And so we will be pursuing grants. If any of you any of you who are on know of entities, we are working with Connecticut Humanities, and we're hopeful of scoring there soon. But if you know of other education-based entities, we will gladly pursue. But as I mentioned, we have over 800 donors now, from $5 to a lot, and everybody, every dollar is appreciated. Everything's volunteer. I'm volunteering my time. Alex volunteers his time. Alex is out here 3 or 4 nights a week after work, tinkering, working with the water system, working with the batteries, improving the lighting, and it's all volunteer. And if you're on and you want to volunteer, shoot me an email and I'll put you to work.
Yeah, I love everything you're doing, but I really love the emphasis on education. I think maybe most, and it's very exciting. It's a good cause. So I don't see any other questions. I did want to say a little bit more about the society and maybe show like a 2-minute video before we wrap things up. But I want to give people a last opportunity to ask any questions or make any comments. And Tim, anything you'd like to say in conclusion? And you probably have a lot to do, so I don't want to.
I do. I should say hello to the folks that I feel like I'm cutting into their time here at Green's Ledge. So
I understand. So if you want to as I get to the last part of this event, if you need to step away, that's perfectly fine. This is
I am going to, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
Thank you all for listening and visiting Green's Ledge. And if you're in the area, remember, just mention Jeremy's name and we'll get you out here.
Thank you so much, Tim. Really, really
Okay.
appreciate it. It was fantastic. I'll be
Thanks for
talking
your
to you.
time. Okay.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to kind of wind things down here, but I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, I won't get into great detail, but some of you probably know we're having the second annual U.S. Lighthouse Society dance-off. Again, I won't explain that all now. It takes a few minutes to explain, but just go to uslhs.org and look under what's new. You'll see the details. You don't have to know how to dance. I took part in it last year and I just kind of lurched around with some kids dancing in front of me. So, you know, I invite everybody just to show their spirit at a local lighthouse. And anyway, you can read all about that at uslhs.org. And a really important thing I want to mention that is actually tied into the dance thing too. We don't have any more of this type of event scheduled right now, but we do have a very special virtual event planned for September 7th. And right after we finish this, I'm going to post it on the front page of the website, uslhs.org. It'll be under events. I had this on there and I wanted to wait until this was over to post the new event, but I'm going to post the September 7th event, which is the 40th anniversary virtual telethon for the U.S. Lighthouse Society. This is the 40th birthday of the U.S. Lighthouse Society. This event will be on September 7th from 1 to 7 p.m. I know it's kind of ambitious, but that's what we're going to do. 6 hours. Jeff Gales, director of the Society, and I will host. We'll have guests from lighthouses around the U.S. and even some other countries as well, including ex-lighthouse keepers and people from preservation organizations and so forth. We will play the finalists in the dance contest during that event, and we'll have the audience vote for the winners. So that's going to be fun. We will have other musical entertainment as well and plenty of surprises. And again, it will be posted very shortly on the site. And it's another one of these things where you need to register in advance. It doesn't cost anything to attend. But and speaking of that, I just want to play a quick video. It's like 2 minutes long. It's a promo for the event, but it's also a promo for the fact that it is the 40th anniversary of the U.S. Lighthouse Society. So just, whoops, somebody just came in the waiting room a little late, but they get to see the video. So just give me a moment here, and I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so you are the first people besides me and Jeff Gales to see that. So please mark your calendars. I hope to see you at that virtual event, September 7th. And as you might guess, a lot of work is going into that. So I don't think we're going to have one of these virtual events in August, but that'll be leading up to September 7th. So if anybody, one new message, let me see what's in the chat here. Thank you. That's a good way to conclude. Thank you for the thank yous. Everybody, thank you for being here. And we'll be seeing you around the lighthouses and in these events in the future. And again, don't forget to get out there and dance. Check out uslhs.org for those things. And I'll throw in one more comment here. If you're not a member of the U.S. Lighthouse Society, please take a look at the website. The Society offers so much. Preservation grants, tours, the passport program. A lot of you are involved with that as well. The podcast, of course, that I do every week, and any memberships and donations support all those things and many more things. So with that, again, thank you all so much, and take care. We'll see you, and keep a good light.